In today's session, I am with my good friend and mentor, Kevin. Now, this is part 2 of our video on mentorship.
The first one was unbelievable.
It was amazing. And by the way, I'm really glad you set me up for that, Kevin, because in our session outline, we're going to include a link to part 1. So make sure you check that out and find out who the better basketball player is. Now, Kevin, last session, we talked about the benefits of being a mentor. And one of the challenges we gave in our game plan is that maybe reach out to a mentor and thank them.
Yeah.
Now, I will tell you, Kevin, you've been a huge mentor in my life. In fact, while we were prepping for this video, I got an opportunity just to say thank you for all the stuff that you've done in my life. I mean, you really helped maximize my potential. In fact, if you guys don't know this, when Kevin and I worked together, there were days at Pine Cove when he'd come to camp and he would point out the littlest things that were wrong. And I went, I want to punch you in the face.
That's right.
But can I tell you guys, this is why I'm so grateful for him, is that he saw potential in me and he wouldn't let me settle.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciate, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah.
Now, you received something from your son, right?
You said this at the end of the video, and I told you this as we cut it off. And it's Father's Day recently. I got a 13-year-old. Love him. And he sends me this note. He says, "Dad, I'd like to thank you for being a great dad. You love to think about other people before yourself. You've sent me emails like this before, so this is now for me a tradition with you," basically. And he goes on to say some nice things, but I really liked your challenge that in the video here, that if you're watching this, you really do have something that comes to your mind. I really would want to reiterate that challenge. Just tell them. And you really had an impact with me. I think it'll impact them in a larger way than you even realize.
Absolutely. And you know what I like about this, Kevin? I think this segues really well into this video because now this is your son, but you're still being intentional with your investment.
Yeah.
The same thing with me. You were very intentional with that investment. I think there's a lot of aspiring leaders. They know it's beneficial, but there's these roadblocks or these hindrances, or let's call them excuses that we make that prevent us from being that mentor, right? So what are some of the common ones that you see?
I mean, you'd probably guess if you're watching this, a common one is, I don't have the time. Another one is, what do I have to offer? Another one is, I'm not perfect. And so, Shawn, you're a guy who's been giving away your life to people for years. And now you're even doing this with your company here and helping people with leadership and just helping people grow. Some things like that never change. You've gotten beyond you're not perfect.
Sure.
No big deal. I know I can't. I cannot go left in basketball. I can't do it.
You still remember that?
I cannot do it. And I can tell you stories of how he guarded my left side.
Or we told the guy who was guarding you to guard your left side.
Terrible. Don't ever play basketball. But I'll tell you what doesn't change is just this past weekend, I was bringing my mentee home to his aunt's house. He said, "Hey, my cousin's here. Do you want to say hi?" Well, his cousin just got out of juvenile detention. He's 13 years old. And I said, "Man, tell him to get out here." He came outside. I grabbed him, hugged him. He looked, he pulled away. He had tears in his eyes. I grabbed his shoulders and said, "Cameron, I want you to know I love you and I believe in you." Okay, so if you're watching this and you go, "Man, I don't have anything to offer, I don't have the time," can I just say, can you just get over it? Because here's the thing. So many people in life, they just aren't willing to step out into that unknown because they go the excuses. And what happens is they're not able to have the impact they could have because they just don't step out there and just start doing it. Look, if you worry you're not perfect, guess what? Everybody else already knows that. Okay, it's not a secret. I'm not perfect. You know that about me.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I'm not perfect.
Yeah. So I mean, with mentors, you're getting robbed of the joy of investing in somebody. That's what you're missing if you are held up by those things.
I want to make sure we don't miss this. I like what you said there, Kevin. You are robbing yourself of the joy. Yeah. And let's just be honest, you're robbing someone else.
That's right.
As well of the joy.
That's right.
There are so many people that are looking for someone. They're crying out for someone to be intentional, right? And something that I feel like when we look at mentors, and you have talked about this, the 2 things you have to do. You don't have to be perfect.
That's right.
You don't have to be a know-it-all. You have to be present.
That's right.
And you have to listen.
That's exactly right. I mean, for a lot of people who you might mentor, you probe with questions, things like that. But it just starts just simply by showing up. I mean, you just show up. I mean, it's like, let's say if you know somebody who's, there's a tragic accident, they go to the hospital and you go, what do I do? What do I say? Well, the great thing is you don't have to say anything. It's just the ministry, we call it here, the ministry of presence.
Yeah.
It's just being there to say, I love you, so I'm here. I don't really even know what to say as a mentor. I'm not really sure what to say right now. I just really believe in you. Just by having somebody say that, I named my third child after the guy who mentored me in high school. When I was in high school, he would end our time and he'd go, hey, I believe in you. Mm-hmm. Well, now I'm saying that to the young kid. Yeah. But I'm also saying it to my own kids. And when I talk to him here umpteen years later, he still ends a phone call with, I believe in you. It's like, so at minimum, you can just believe in somebody, right? And just communicate that to them.
And you know what I think is great about that, Kevin, is that I think sometimes the people who we are intentionally investing in, they will probably learn more from our mistakes if we're vulnerable enough. Those are actually some of the biggest lessons is when we can say, hey, can I just share with you? I messed up in this.
You know, my wife and I do premarital counseling for young couples, and they'll come over to our house and a night, we'll spend a couple hours with them. And we've had numerous couples tell us the most impactful sessions we've had with them.
I know what you're about to say. I've heard you say this before.
are the sessions we never had, because they come to the front door and we go, I'm sorry, my wife and I, we're arguing right now. This is not a good time for us. And they go, really? I'm like, yeah. And then we've had people say, can we stay and watch? I'm like, no, that's awful. We need to be able to argue, right? But it's like they learned, we've had couples tell us, we learned that y'all admitted you have tension. It's like, well, of course you do. It's marriage, right? But admitting that spoke volume. It gave them freedom to be able to have conflict in their marriage as well.
Absolutely.
There's richness in that.
Absolutely. Well, Kevin, we're not done.
Yeah.
In our next session, we're going to wrap this thing up on mentorship. So for today, here's your game plan. Okay. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to find just one person. That's it. And I want you to tell them, I believe in you. Now, I want you to mean it, okay, as well. But there's power in that. And for our tweetable lesson, it's by David L. Cook. And he says this, people all have stories. They don't have many listeners.